port side and Yale on their, no, it's the other way around. Harvard on their starboard side and Yale on their port side.
Well, I've talked a lot of...
I think the start's going to be important, and we're away with it.
Very even in those first 5 strokes. No one lost anything in those first 5 strokes in this grand final of the men's second varsity.
All clean strokes, you're right.
And it continues to be level as we enter into these high strokes that are going to sustain these crews through the first 250 meters. Now it's maybe just going to be the crew on the bottom of your picture, Brown, who have lost a little bit of ground to this crew from Washington. Traditionally been very, very fast out of the blocks here at the IRA, top to bottom in this program, across the course of the program this weekend. So here they are showing early now in this Washington boat.
Yeah, the early lead to Washington.
Going right along with them, their great rivals from California, sitting at just 2 or 3 seats deficit now in this very early stage. Crossing through to the second half of the first 500 now, but Washington getting themselves out to a nice little lead, but definitely too close for comfort. They're going to want to continue to extend that lead if they have a hope of defending their title in this event from last year's IRA, because none of these crews can be ruled out as we get into the base section of this race.
Yeah, Washington has a lead. California in second. Syracuse appears to be almost level with California. Maybe now dropping a little bit back as Harvard comes up level with Syracuse. And then behind Harvard, well, let's see. That's who's in 5th and who's in 6th. Brown looks like maybe they're in 6th. And I would say Yale in 5th place.
Yeah, again, this camera angle from the drone on that side doesn't tend to be very favorable for the crew on the bottom of the picture. You can see this is a little bit clearer. It's awfully close between Brown and Yale, way over on the far sides, lanes way across from each other. So very important for those coxswains to keep eyeballs on one another in those far outside lanes. But all about this crew from Washington now, who have really laid it down in this second 500. They've extended their lead over California to half a boat length, or maybe even a little bit more, continuing to take seats for the Washington Huskies. Harvard. We've seen such strong performances from this men's 2V from Harvard all weekend long. They've been a little bit more of a second half crew. I've talked a lot about how much they like that 1K move, but really just comfortably sitting at half a length down on California, and Washington out to a full boat length over this Harvard crew now. Will they have given away too much, Dave, if they have hopes to capture the gold?
Yeah, if they're counting on the third 500, that's an awfully big risk, because Washington is not letting their foot off the pedal at all. Cal may be, Cal's holding about a half a boat length back.
Ooh, it looks like the Harvard crew maybe just struggling with the water a little bit there. That was a little bit unusual.
A little strange. There was a little bit of...
I'm not sure what that was. Not characteristic of them.
Yeah, very different.
For sure. But still holding that margin on California, still a few seats deficit for Harvard, and it looks like maybe open water between themselves and Washington. Again, this camera angle from the drone, very misleading, I think, on the actual margins that we're seeing. So it gives you a sense of how close it is, but not what the actual margin might be. It gives you down in the action. There you go. California still at almost a full boat length deficit to Washington. Very dominant third 500 from the Huskies to get themselves into a very comfortable position as we're coming into the closing meters of the race. But everything to play for the silver and the bronze, Dave. What do you think?
I think Harvard's gone into silver position right now. Just as they were coming by the yacht club, they pulled level with and ahead of Cal for the moment, and they are closing in on Washington as well. Deficit now is just half a length. They had been a full boat length back of Washington. If they can keep this momentum going, there's no telling what the result might be. Harvard continuing to close ground on Washington. Washington looking pretty sharp out in the front. No mistakes there. But Harvard is putting the pressure on. Harvard has gone well past Cal into second place. Harvard has probably 3 seats on Cal at this point, maybe 2.
Yes, here comes that powerful third 500 move that we were expecting from Harvard. it has pulled them up into the conversation with California and maybe just starting to separate themselves from the rest of the pack for the medals, unless this crew from Brown has something to say about that, because here they come, also known to have an absolutely deadly sprint in that last 500. Brown coming up on the outside lanes, going to have these coxswains making sure they're keeping their eyes and ears open, because here they come. Brown now challenging for the bronze against California, but all about Washington out in front. Your race leaders really from the start here. Flawless race plan from the Washington Huskies to take themselves right up into the red buoys and all the way to the finish line. Gold medal in sight for the Huskies. Just the last few strokes, as the last few medals will be decided at the line. Oh, wow. Big finish in this men's 2V. It looked like it was just Harvard over California.
Harvard over Cal for the silver medal. Looks like the Husky lead that they got early was just a little too much to be overcome.
And that was an awfully fast trip down the track. They were on pace to break record, and they did indeed set a new record in this men's 2V. So they will not be sharing that record with Harvard anymore.